Hello guys and welcome here. My name is Yassine and in today's video we are going to talk about the CountIF and CountIFs function in Microsoft Excel. So for those of you who don't know what is this function, well, we're gonna cover it in this video. So basically the CountIF function is a function that allows you to count elements if a certain criteria is respected. Okay, so we're gonna check it out. Here I have a little database that I have created. This database is divided in 4 parts. So we have the number, the name, the continent, and the hours worked. So we're gonna use this database as an example. But before starting with this example, I'm gonna talk about the parameters that contains the CountIF function. So let's go here, for example, and I'm gonna write down my CountIF function. So we have CountIF that we are going to work with, as well as CountIFs. The only difference between those two is that we can use more than one range and more than one criteria in order to count what we need to count. All right, so let's start. So first thing, let's say that I want to have, well, I have the numbers that are here. Let's say I want to count the numbers that are greater than 105. So of course we have 10 numbers there, and in those 10 numbers, 1, 2, 3 numbers are smaller than 105, and the 7 others are greater than 105. So how exactly I'm gonna count the numbers that are greater than 105? So it's pretty simple. We're gonna use those 2 parameters. So the first parameter will be the range in which I want to count. So my range will be from the number 100 to the number 118. So from cell D8 to the cell D17, all right? Then the second part of our CountIF function is the criteria. So in our case here, we want, well, our criteria is numbers that are greater than 105. So we want to count all the numbers that are greater than 105. Right, so I'm gonna re-explain the formula. So we want to count in the range that is from the cell D8 to the cell D17, all the numbers that are greater than 105. And if we run the function, the answer is 7. So let's count them: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. All right. So this is pretty much how it works for this the CountIF function. So really important, the range part, well, you're gonna select the cells that you want to work with. For the criteria part, it's really important to use those little commas right here in order to write down your criteria, because if you don't use it, well, it's simply not going to work, all right? It's possible to do this as well with text. So for example, here we have our names that are just there, so we'll do the same thing. So let's calculate how many, let's do it for continents, because of course there is more, well, there is Africa 1, 2, yeah, there is 2 Africas, because names, each person has 1 name, so even if we have the right answer, it's just 1 answer. So let's do it in continents. So we're gonna count how many Africas are here. So we're gonna use our CountIF function. We want to count inside of this database the number of continents, well, the number of things, the number of elements that are equal to, in this case, Africa. So we'll write down Africa. So in our example, of course, there is only 2 Africas. So as you can see here, I have what I have written. I'm gonna just translate it. So I want to count in the range from the cell F8 to the cell F17, all the names, or all the, well, the elements that are named Africa. So in this case, we have Europe, Asia, North America, South America, and Africa. So we have Africa twice. So if we count all the Africas, we have Africa twice, right? So this is how the CountIF function works. Now we have also the CountIFs function, which is a little bit different. So in this case, what exactly does this function do? So this function allows us to basically calculate based on multiple criteria. So we are gonna work with not just one range, but with multiple ranges. So one example, how many people worked more than 28 hours are from Africa and have a number that is greater than 105. So this is one example that we can use, for example. All right. So let's translate it inside of our CountIF's function. So I'm just gonna write down our criteria. One. So our criteria number 1 in this case, we want a number that is greater than 105. Okay. Our criteria number 2, once again, I just put it here for you guys to understand what are the criteria that we are going to work with. Criteria number 2, in this case, we want the person to be from, let's say, Europe. So Europe. And criteria number 3, we want the person to have worked more than 30 hours. Okay, so more than 30 hours worked. So the H is just hours. It's, once again, we're not gonna use those directly in our function. It's just for you to understand. So how exactly are we gonna write down this function? So let's write it down here. So we want to count ifs once again. So we'll write down our equal and count ifs. So as I said, as you can see here, it's divided in more than one parameter. So we have the parameter criteria range 1, criteria 1. So for each criteria that we want to work with, there is a range, there is a range that we need to apply it to. So the greater than 105, the range will be here. So let's start from the beginning. So we want to, first thing that we want to verify, we want to see if the range number 1, which is numbers, is greater than 105. So we'll write it down. Next, as you can see here, we have criteria range 2. So for the second thing, we want to work with the range that is right here. So for this range right here, we want to count all the Europes. And finally, for the range right here, for the hours worked, we want to count all the elements that are greater than 30, because we want it to be greater than 30 hours. All right. Now, if we calculate it, little mistake. As you can see, I didn't add my little commas right here. There we go. And as you can see, there is just one person that respects all those criteria. So who is this person in this case? Well, let's find it out. It's Bill. Well, no, it's not Bill, because Bill is smaller than 105. So how many Europes we have? We have 1 Europe, 2 Europes, 3 Europes right there. So the only person that respects all those elements, so if we check it out, first criteria is we want it to be greater than 105. So what are all the elements that are greater than 105? We have Marie here, and we have Jack right here. Second criteria, we want all those elements to be equal to Europe. So we have Europe and Europe there. And our third element, we want our hours to be greater than 30. So in this case, we have Marie, there is greater than 30 with a 35 hours that is just here. So as you can see, it's just one person that respects all this criteria, all right? So right now, to summarize pretty much what we have learned in this little video, our CountIF or CountIF's function is divided in 2 parameters. The parameter number 1 will be the range that you are working with, and the parameter number 2 is the criteria. So you want to count all the elements that respect a certain criterion. CountIFs is the same thing, but you want to count all the elements that respects certain criteria in certain ranges, all right? So as we did in this little exercise right here. So I hope you guys enjoyed this little example and you learned something new about Microsoft Excel. If you did, of course, don't forget to like, to subscribe, and see you all in another video.